Hi, my name's Stephanie, and thanks for watching. And if you're not my husband or my sister, welcome. I'm going to be making a card today, but feel free to head on over to Sassy Bass Crafts and see what's going on in my blog. So here's what we're doing today. We're doing what I like to call a classy goat boyfriend card. And yes, there's a story behind that name. So let's get started. First, you're going to need a piece of paper, and I just cut mine to 4¼ by 5½ inches, just a standard note card. And we're going to do some stamping. I'm using a stamp positioner because I spent a fortune on it, and so I use it for everything now because I want to get my money's worth. And it's a good tool. You don't need it though. You can just use some stamp blocks because we're not doing anything very difficult. The first thing you're going to do is I like to stack up my stamps to see which stamp I need to do first, since I'm going to be doing a little bit of masking. So I'll put my goat stamp and then my hat stamp because that's what I want it to look like, and then I'll close the door and know that that's the first stamp I have to stamp. It's very scientific. So I'm going to stamp it up using an ink that's good for Copic coloring or alcohol marker coloring, because I'm going to be using my alcohol markers. So I just stamp that up, and then I have a little mask that I'll finish cutting out here at super speed and put it down. And the reason why I'm putting down the mask is so that I can put the goat in there and it looks like he's wearing a hat, which I have experience putting hats on goats. Not easy. They don't keep them and then they chew on them. So it's much better just to stamp them. So I'm going to stamp this goat. It's Tim Holtz stamp. They're hipster animals and I think they're hilarious. So we're going to stamp that guy and put him right under the hat. I'll probably do it twice because I like a really bold black outline when I color, even though that looks pretty cool and vintagey without the bold black outline. So I'm just going to double stamp him. Just be a more careful stamper than me if you're not using a stamp positioner. And then I think that looks pretty good. So at first I wanted to do like a goat glamour shot with like lots of glitter and maybe big hair or something like in the 80s style. You could Google glamour shots and you'll get some phenomenal pictures. But I knew that would be too hard. So the runner-up idea was like a Sears portrait studio type look, with the background and sort of the vignette. So that's what I'm going to be going for today. So I made a mask to cover up the whole goat because I don't want a blue goat. I just want a blue background. And then I'm going to do some ink blending. And give you a little pro tip. You don't need special paper to do ink blending. You just need patience. I'm putting a little post-it tape there because I forgot to give him the rest of a shoulder. And I wanted to make sure that he had 2 shoulders. So I just put some tape in and that's it. And then we'll put it back in when we're coloring. The colors I chose are Salty Ocean and Faded Jeans and then Black Soot, because I think I wanted a little bit of focus on the goat. So I'm going to make it lighter around the goat's head, like a little halo, and then darker around the outside, and then the black is going to make a vignette. And this took me probably 10 minutes to figure out and get to a place that I like. So that's why I just sped it up. And so see, now we have a little velvety background that looks like a portrait studio. So then we're going to remove our masks, which is always exciting. And there you go. We have a little goat ready to be colored. He sure is dapper. And I really like how that background turned out. The thing with distress inks that I really like is that they react with water. So spraying some water gives it a bit of a vintagey look. And so I always like to do that if I do a lot of ink blending. So we're going to move on to coloring. And I sped it up pretty fast because it's not very exciting coloring. I do what's called the lazy Copic shuffle. And I do my lightest color, then the darkest in the shadows, and then I blend it out with the medium color. And if it's not really blended, then I'll go back in with the light color. It's not very scientific. I just do it until it looks the way that I like. I will learn to get better at it, But until now, I just do it to have some fun. And so there. And if you are interested in the color combinations that I use, which again aren't really anything that special, I will have them down in the um, description for you. I decided to give this dapper goat gentleman a coat of green because it is the holidays. And so I used a muted green because I think he would have a hipstery type green coat. I think I should talk about sort of the inspiration for this card because normal people don't think about making cards with humanized, anthropomorphized goats. So I have a friend who loves to travel, and she travels often. And one of the trips that she usually takes is out to the West Coast, and she often visits this farm or this like sanctuary where she always stops because she loves goats. And she always stops to visit these same goats and usually takes selfies with them, but she always takes selfies with this one particular goat. And then she makes a note to say, "Oh, I'm just hanging with my boyfriend." And I don't know if she's talking about a farmer who works at the sanctuary or this goat. So I always read it as this goat is her boyfriend. And so I thought it'd be really funny to send her a Christmas card this year that was like a humanized goat boyfriend. So that's where the inspiration for that came to be. What I did with the black marker was because the stamp didn't go right to the end, I just drew in the rest. And the stamp's really sketchy, so you don't need to be a great drawer to get it back in. And so that's all that I did, and then I outlined the shoulders that weren't outlined. Anyways, back to the story. And so, yes, she has this goat boyfriend. I thought it'd be really funny. Hence the wanting to do the glamour goat shot, but not really being able to figure out because I was too busy to try and figure out something. I thought that the Sears Portrait Studio boyfriend goat shot would be a good runner-up. So I'm just going to color in the goat is some warm grays. I can't actually remember what color her goat boyfriend is. I can't remember if he's brown or if he is a black and white goat. I think he might be a black and white goat. And I hope I don't offend her by sending some strange goat instead of the one that looks like her boyfriend. But I'm sure she'll appreciate it all the same. The good thing about these stamps is that there's a lot of cross-hatching where the shading's supposed to be. So I call it pretty idiot-proof coloring because if you just put the dark where that cross-hatching, where those sketchy lines are, then it's super easy to give the picture some dimension, which is all I'm doing right here. So I'm just filling in with the warm grays and making him look good, especially around the glasses. And I was thinking that this card could be used for other occasions very easily. You just gotta switch out the hat, really. You could put a birthday hat on it and it becomes a great birthday card. So you could use it for several occasions for the goat lovers in your life, because I'm sure you have them. I know I have several goat lovers in my life, and they're all getting goat Sears Portrait Studio cards, I think, for different occasions. I like to shade my grays, especially when the background's not white, with some neutral grays, so that's all I'm doing there. And, excuse me, and there you go. I have a colored goat. Obviously, I didn't not like the hat that I did there. I wanted some more contrast, so put in a few more shadows. Like I was saying, this could be a great card for different occasions. A party hat for birthday party, and that crazy things set has all sorts of things. You could put a graduation cap on it, and it's a congratulations on your graduation card. I'm gonna vintage up this image a little bit by just spraying a little bit of water from my sprayer on there, and there you go. Now we got a vintage goat boyfriend card, which I think looks really cool. What I noticed about this card is that it's too big. So usually what I do is I'll take my panel and I'll cut 1/8 of an inch off each side. And I like to cut 1/8 of an inch because I like to mount it on some colored paper. To keep it classy, like this card, I'll probably just put it on some black cardstock and put it on my card. The sentiment comes from Tim Holtz, I think, Crazy Sentiments. I think that's it. It's a sentiment set that goes with it. And I chose Ho 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 because I thought that was pretty classy. Um, Originally, I wanted to go with something that's something that was more personal, something that I made up, like Seasons Bleedings or something punny like that. Are you ready for Christmas? And then inside it could say, Totes my goat, or something like that. It's really hard to come up with a pun on the spot. If anybody knows any like holiday inspired goat puns, leave them to me in the comment because I think I'm going to make a couple cards and I'd like to have some puns on here because I feel puns are a really high form of humor. And so I went with Ho 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 and I white heat embossed it so it would stand out a little bit. And I think that looks really good. It looks like it said Ho Ho Ho. And not that he's calling her a ho ho ho. Oh my goodness, I didn't even think of that. She won't read it that way. Nobody will read it that way. Only I read it that way. And at this point, I noticed that my masking was pretty terrible, and there's a little white line around parts of the goat here. So all I did was I took some Copic markers in the colors that match the distress ink, and then I just filled in the worst of it. I know it's not really that big a deal, but when there's only one image on the card and it's the focus, you kind of want it to look pretty good. So I just filled that in a little bit and it looks pretty good to me. So now I'm going to mount it on some black cardstock and I'm going to use a top folding card and I'm going to make the black cardstock the same size as the card because I didn't want any white card showing. And so I'll just stick that using some tape. Just use some double-sided tape, some cheap tape. And then when I mount a card on cardstock, I usually like to use foam tape to mount it up because it makes it a little stronger. And this has to go through the mail. So I want to make sure that it's going to stay flat. And here's a crafty crafter's hack. I get my foam tape at the dollar store. More specifically, Dollarama carries the foam tape that I use. And the reason why I do that is because it's cheap and I'm not going to worry about using too much of it because it's $1 for like 20 feet. And that's more in my budget. Anyways, I'm going to stick it to the front here and then that's it. I'm going to add a bit of snowflakes and some glossy accents on the eyes and call it a card. Thanks for watching, and I hope that you really enjoyed this first video. If you did, let me know, and maybe I can make some more. Other than that, have a great day.